Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Mila Baraika. I'm looking at Ruth 2, verse 10. There's an interesting verb in this particular passage, or this verse, that going to require just a lot of explanation. And I'm going to apologize beforehand if I say some fierce things about Hebrew dictionaries or lexicons. They're a good tool, but sometimes they run us down a kind of a deep rabbit hole in terms of how things happen in Hebrew. So I'll have to give what I would say the official, I'm teaching class and I have to give the official explanations of what's happening with this verb. And at the end, just stay tuned and I'll give you the simplified, my personal way I handle this verb. It's a verb that's used like 150 times in the Bible. So it's worthwhile studying it and looking at it. Fortunately, it's a verb that's used very much in a specific context of somebody bowing before somebody who's more important. You'll have somebody who's standing in importance, and you have somebody who's on the ground, face down, with petitions or greetings or something happening with their face on the ground. So it's a very much context type. The context will influence the meaning of this verb a whole lot. So there's a complicated explanation. I'll give the complicated explanation, hopefully not take too long doing it. Then also give you my simplified. So stay tuned for my simplified approach to this particular verb. So let's get on with the study. Again, we're using a codex. So look up Ruth 2 verse 10 in your app in either Blue Letter Bible or Bart Bible. Both of them are really good resources here. Although if you check it out, they don't agree on how they handle this particular verb in the middle here. So one calls it a hishpael and the other one calls it a hitpael. Just a basic one. One is a version or variant of the other. So I think the Blue Letter Bible called it hishpael, and just simply because of the sh that's in here. So verse 9 is, I think runs right up to about here. Yeah, there it is. Yeshavun, that's they're drawing up, lifting up. Nahrim, that the young men, plural here. Hanaharim, Hanarim. I'd have a tendency to stick a hey in there, but there's no hey in there. Hanarim, the young men. The young men have drawn up the water, and you go drink from that water. That's how verse 9 ends. Then a nice siluk. And no sof pasuk. Printed Bibles are going to stick sof pasuk in there, even though my version doesn't have it. The man was saving himself some ink here. Figured the siluk was plenty good enough to end the verse. Then this part was dialogue or monologue, basically from Boaz, and then we move straight into the narration again. And this is a feminine prefixed form here, tefol. Nifol, tifol, falling down. It's a nifol. It's a nifol. In other words, it's a reflexive or passive, or she's falling down. Reflexive, basically, mostly reflexive. She's doing it to herself. This is a feminine prefix here. So since the only two people in our story at this point are Boaz and Ruth, then Ruth is then falling. Okay, al fanecha on her face. So this, incidentally, is the root. When you look up what the base root of this one is, it'll be nun fe lamed, and from there we derive things like nifel, hifel, hofel, and so forth. In other words, this is the verb that's used to set up the categories in Hebrew. So take a good look at when you start to dividing things up. This is the root that's used to do it. So here it is. The nun pe lamed. Nun, of course, in this version here, has been gone through a pheresis, and so elision or pheresis, and in its place we have the tau, which is a feminine prefix here. So tofan, but there's a dagish here. Tepol, she fell on fanacha, on her face, and this is the notice that they both start with a tau. This one tau, so they're feminine prefixing right here. And so what does she do here? On her face. Face is plural, by the way, and probably in references to the two sides of the face, or the two nostrils up here. When this one goes singular, it just means turning from one side or the other, fen, or turning back, or lest, things like that. But plural, and a lot of things in reference to the human body, human face, anayim and yadayim and so forth are in the plural. So it's parts of the human body very well known for being a plural. So it's fanecha, face of her, faces, well, face of her. We're going to translate it singular because doing this in plural in our language doesn't work. In Hebrew it works. Okay, fanecha. Va tish tahu. Here it is. This, if you go over into your app and look up what the root of this thing is, the app will tell you based on long historical lexicons and dictionaries and so forth, way back when, 200 years back, somebody decided that this particular root here, sheen, the real root that's supposed to be working here is the sheen, is the chet, and we have a hey that's suffered the apocope at the end here, gone. Okay, so that's the root then. Okay, that's their base root, which they can, in dictionaries, they write it down. Here's the base root of this verb right here. And I had a fun exercise, and I invite you to do it as well. Just go on Blue Letter Bible and ask for the listing of all the verses that have 145 of them that have this one with shin, chet, hey as the root, and only a very few of them run with the root that our lexicons operate with. That's shin, chet, hey. I think in Genesis, of all the ones that appear in Genesis, one of them runs like that, shin, chet, hey. And going through the rest of the Bible, I'd say maybe 1 in 20. I really should do the math at some point. Just sit down with a piece of paper and write out which one used the lexicon version of the verb and which one used the other version we have here. Okay, what do we have here? So here's the thing I would have to explain in class, and I always found it, I find it interesting because it is interesting, but tedious as well, I'd just say. So, tish, ta, hu. If the root is shin, chet, hey, the hey has gone through apocope. That's a very well-known feature of this verb. Happens to a lot of verbs, by the way. One front or back of the verb disappears off in either elision or apocope. Then what has happened is the tau comes on the front here, establishing the, like I said, the feminine gender of this particular verb. And then the root itself had started out with a double, the prefix or the thing that defines it, it started out with a double tau, but this second tau moved itself into the middle, okay? That's why it's called a hit pile, the t here, or the hish pile, hish to pile, that there's always going to be kind of a tau on the second part of that beginning. Now, in the participle forms, the roots, the prefixing is good enough to, you got two actually, is one of the few prefixing systems that uses two consonants in its prefixing. So in participles, those two stay at the front. But in some participles, it does move in. I've noticed that. If you see a mem on the front, look for a tau here. The second part of the thing is moving into the middle. But what has happened then, this bi-consonant prefix splits itself up. One part stays in the front of it. The other part moves into the middle of the root. And so you have the tau. And this is metastasis, same like the cancer. You think of it as cancer. It's moved right into the middle. It's kind of wrecked my tumor has moved into the middle of the root. So it's moved in here, metastasis, moving from one spot from the front to the middle into the positioning, or what you call the central part of the root. And so you have va, tish, ta, hu. Okay, prefix part, the prefixing split up, moved into the middle of the verb, and then that's what you have then, tish, ta, hu. Now, in ancient times, I'm totally convinced they didn't do this kind of. What you have with setting up roots, the people who write lexicons want to have a system in which you'll have a triliteral root, and so they're looking for the easiest way to say this verb. They aren't always looking for the most common way to say this word. Okay, so on one hand, okay, the easiest way, shin chet hey. Okay, and you can find just a few examples of that throughout the whole Bible. But the most common way to say it is shin tet chet, and in ancient times, that was the root they used. So this is the way I work through it. And it's fine, to call it hitpael and to hishpael and so forth, because the he, that is the hitic, does indicate the causative. And here's another thing about this root: its own action actually tells us what it's going to do. So if you are facing on your face to the ground, with your face towards the ground, you're fanab. If you're facing to the ground like that, that is a passive, that is a reflexive causative. Okay, so it's a reflect. You cause your face to fall to the ground. Okay, so it's a causative, reflexive, and that's what hitpael is. Okay, causative, reflexive, because that's what the verb is doing. So here's another secret I'm going to let you in on. Just because don't look for hitpael or hispael on the basis of its parsing structure. Look for it on the basis of what the verb is doing. In other words, the action of the verb actually defines what the grammar of that verb is. That's really the way it should be. Don't just say, I've got to figure this thing out. Well, we do have a great advantage in having beautiful apps that tell us what's happening here. When you see it, fine, okay? And just keep in mind that it's causative, reflexive, and that's happens because that's what this verb happens to be doing. Okay, so the verb itself tells you, in a sense, the action of the verb tells you what it is. So take the root as shin tau chet. Pretty sure in ancient times that's how they operated. The tau on the front here will define, in this case, a gender. If you see a yod, that's masculine, then I see a hey with it, and also I'll tell you one thing: the Mashara, the Masoretes, do help us out a lot with this. Just spot the hitic, and the hitic you start thinking hitpael or hishpael, and so forth. So the causative force, same causative force that you have in hifil. Hifil is a causative force, but it's not reflexive. Okay, so but hitpael is causative force reflexive. Okay, so there we go. So hish tahu. This verb works in courtroom scenes, in where kings are sitting on a throne and you have subjects coming before them. You have it when Abraham greets the people that come to his tent over in Hebron or Mamre, and he's bowing down to the Lord and the two angels. And there, I think it is yit. It is it's a masculine start of the verb here, and it's used a whole lot, and even used in Exodus 20 in the law. Don't bow down to them. Okay. Lo, I think it's tish tafayel. And then the ending on that one will be plural. So they're it's used a lot, but it's used in a very specific environment. Okay? The environment is somebody is showing somebody is bowing down and placing themselves as a subject to someone else. This particular verb prefix form, you'll find it with Bathsheba bowing to David and saying, "Hey, shouldn't you be looking at Solomon becoming king?" There she is bowing in front of David, who's sitting on a throne, and she's also showing her loyalty and her subjection to the other person, to David there. So Tishta Hu, And she bowed down. Aretsa. And this is another character. This is Aretz, of course, a well-known word for earth or ground. Yeah, ground that's there. And it has a common say at the end, which is a directional hey. And this, you'll see a directional hey is quite often related to this particular verb here. So bowing down, and you bow down all the way to the earth. You put your face flat on the earth. Vatomer. Okay, nice Mil-El accenting on the Tomer, and she said. Again, this one's, you have she, the gender of the verbs are all feminines here. So, Vatomer, Elav, to him. Madua, why? Okay, just simply an interrogative. Why? Madua, yeah, well-known interrogative particle. Masha, ti, hen. When you see verbs repeated in chapters, we've seen this verb in 2 verse 2, emasha chen. Okay? And this is also something that happens in formation of verbs. There's 2 ways of structuring Hebrew verbs. One is prefixing the gender, and the other one is suffixing. Okay, so this one's a suffix. The previous one is prefixing. Okay, no, prefixing the person. Okay, first person. So el asa, el, you start here. Okay, if you put an aleph in the front of the mem here, al el matza, I find, and then it is the same thing in 2 verse 2, el matza chen. Okay. And here it's masati chen, I have found favor. So generally speaking, this kind of repeating of a verb is done really close together. You'll have the prefix form first, suffix form next, and in this case we know they're more basically connected, because in verse 2 she says, in where or with who I would find favor, and then why have I found favor? Okay, so it's madua. Okay. Matzati, why I have found, chen, favor. So this one has a connection then to Ruth 2 verse 2. In Ruth 2 verse 2, it's an expectation, and here it's a result. So, but the suffix ending here is in first person singular. In verse 2, it's prefix form first person singular. So, matzati, chen, favor. Benecha, in your eyes. We've seen enecha in previous one used as a verb. Here is in, so be, enecha, in your eyes. Why have found favor in your eyes? Why have you looked at me with favor? Le ha'akirreini, in order to recognize me or to take notice of me. Okay, so lamed, anytime you see a lamed of purpose in front of a verb, it's going to make this verb operate as infinitive. And so why? To take notice of me. Okay? Why have you taking notice? Le haker kir reini. Okay, and ni, this is then the suffix, the personal pronoun to me. Okay, why have you taken notice to me? Ve and anochi, this is the long version of the first person singular pronoun, independent pronoun. The short version would be ani, but this is anochi. In a sense, in modern Hebrew, you say, oh, ani, familiar, anochi, formal. A little bit of that happening here, but anochi, and I, nach. Let me see, is that noch? Oh, there's no accenting on this one, so this comment is going to work as a commentative. Noch re, noch richia, noch richia. And I am a foreigner, okay? And I, foreigner, yeah, and I, here, this is an I, nachricha, and I am a foreigner, I'm an outsider, okay? And really nobody should take notice of outsiders or foreigners, but, and she's very surprised, wow, hey, Boaz is taking notice, and she's noticing it, other people are probably noticing it, and so forth. And so it's a really good question, actually. Why would you take notice of me? What's so important? What's happening? What's this all about? Yeah, when you begin a relationship, probably a lot of questions as to where is all this going, and basically that's what she's saying here at the end. But she knows her status as a foreigner. Nikrani, nik nach Richa, nach Richa, is a Richa, nach noch. I guess I have to run it as a common too here. Okay, let's do that. Noch Richa. Okay, noch Richa. I am a foreigner, and why would you notice me being a foreigner? I don't count around here. Sometimes it happens. You feel like, oh, I remember I was an immigrant to Canada. I was an immigrant to Mexico, and so yeah, you do feel out of place when you're in another country. You're still learning the language and still learning the culture. So yeah, sometimes we feel out of place and we question ourselves as to what's happening. Beautiful passage here. I invite you to use my simplified system for this particular verb. It works. Okay, just take the root as shin, tau, chet. Then the prefixing and the suffixing works fine. Defining the gender, defining the number here at the end. So so plural, singular, whatever. And then front will then define your gender for you. So just simplify it on down. It works a whole lot better than trying to look for a prefixing system that invades into the middle of some kind of root. I'm pretty sure in ancient times they didn't do that kind of thought game, so they just kept it simple. Shata. For them, in ancient times, shata was their root. Why? Because that's the one that pops up all the time. Just look it up. It's they're a whole lot more than shin, chet, hey. Okay? Go for the popular version of your root, and that one will work most of the time for you. When you find the other root, be a little surprised. Oh yeah, how about that? There's the other one. There's the minor brother of the major root system. So yeah, just in Hebrew textbooks, Hebrew lexicons and so forth, they often operate on their own grammatical thought systems. And there are certainly times when we have to sort of pull ourselves away from that and use something that the ancients probably used. Okay, the ancients probably used this one as a root of shin, tau, chet, and that was good enough for them. It's good enough for me, and so go for the simplified version. Much easier to learn, much easier to use, and you don't have to play all kinds of mind games as to where the pieces go into this verb here. Just use the root, the shin, tau, chet, as your root, and you'll be fine. God bless and God strengthen you in this day.